his plan from the start was to do this transition counter-attacking football. What is the point of Onana? Because the whole point that we thought when we signed Onana was that we're going to get a keeper who can play from the back, who can help us transition in attacks. Take it back to May 2022, right? You remember when Ten Hag signed in the first place? Back then, we all thought that the problem has finally been solved, right? We had a bad stint with Ole, we had a bad stint with Ragnick, we had a bad stint with Mourinho before that. We thought he's the man who's going to bring us to that next level. But then, what happened? And well, that's the consequence of why so many people, including me, are now Ten Hag out. Because when he came in, I'm not going to lie, I thought that finally I'm going to see the football that I missed out on all those years back under Sir Alex. I thought that's going to return now. Now I'm going to see my team perform exactly at that level. And guess what? For the first 6 months, we actually did. When we beat Spurs at Old Trafford 2-0, that game, I will not lie, even to this day, it's the best game I've ever seen. Right? Spurs did not have a chance, and we were going shot after shot after shot. Anthony hit the post, I remember. And we scored two, but I remember we should have scored way more than that, and we deserved to. This was one of the first times we deserved to score more than 2 or 3 goals and win by 3 or 4 goals, especially against a big side, because we don't do that. We never do that. Then I thought, okay, Ten Hag must be the man. Then you know what happened? Then the World Cup finished. We thought, oh, this was the wrong time for the break. Maybe if this break hadn't happened, Ten Hag could have continued what he was doing. But then what does he do? Straight back from the World Cup, we start again. Winning run after winning run, right? But this was what Ten Hag brought, right? And okay, I'm not even going to mention the 7-0 yet. That's for later. But at that point, even when Casemiro got the red card against Palace, even till that game, we were at the top. We were playing exactly like we wanted. We had that identity back. All the players were giving it their best. You think about Lisandro, you think about Varane, you think about Dalot, Luke Shaw, and De Gea. That defense was solid. Right? Remember, we didn't even concede more than 10 goals at Old Trafford last season. That's how good we were. But then, you take it back to now, this season, 23-24, the one which just passed. There, Ten Hag really exposed himself. That's why he made a fool of himself. And he played players that he shouldn't have. He made a few tweaks, in-game tactics, some recruitment decisions, which did not go in our way. And that is why people are Ten Hag out, by the way. So let's get into it. So what's the first main problem that Ten Hag has? Well, the first thing is his in-game tactics. Like, we don't even know what he's doing. Come, think about it. Which manager in the history of football have you seen throughout the game play a 3-1-6? 6 up front, you're leaving one man in the pivot, especially, remember, it's not like we have a young Casemiro, by the way. We had an old Casemiro. Casemiro wasn't even playing in some of these games. We were playing Kobe. We're leaving Kobe in the middle, or Amrabat sometimes in the middle. And we would tell everybody else just go forward, right? Because Bruno goes forward. McTominay, if you play McTominay, he's definitely going to go forward. And then you have Rashford, obviously, he never comes back. And neither does Garnacho as well, and obviously Højlund's Højlund. So everybody else is up front. And then you have your CDM, supposedly, who we don't even have a proper CDM yet. And then our defense, who's going to get exposed. So we have to put a stop to that. But guess what? Ten Hag decides, no, that's going to work. And guess what? Here's another thing about the substitutes, yeah? It's not only that he favors certain players, but also the substitutions he makes is really weird here. Because, okay, in the first season, I thought, okay, he's actually taking aggressive approaches and he's actually bringing on the right people. Like when he used to bring on Weghorst and Sabitzer, it actually did make sense. But then what happened last season? Last season, he used to bring off defenders. When we were losing, he used to do this gung-ho approach. He used to think, okay, let's take off all our defenders. Let's take off Lisandro. Let's take off Varane. Because we're losing. Let's put on all attackers. Especially, I saw this in the Liverpool game. We were so lucky in that Liverpool game when we beat them 4-3. That should have never happened because he threw off all his defenders. We had Mount and Eriksen at centre back. That's how bad it was. And yet, we somehow survived. We somehow counted and we won the game. But think about how badly it could have gone. Mount and Eriksen cannot play at centre back. Yet, you threw off our best defenders, Varane, and I think Kambwala played that game if I'm not wrong. I'm not too sure. But he threw off our defenders and he brought on Mount and Eriksen to play centre backs. Antony was playing either left back or right back. That's how the team was, and we somehow screamed it. But there were many other games where we didn't either. So that's why some of these tactics that Ten Hag has just gone out of the window. He does not know what he's doing because there's no sense to what he's at. Now let's get to the next one, recruitment. This is what I critique him the most for. Okay. Now we can always say, right, that in hindsight we can say, oh, this player was bad, this player was good. Okay, fine, no problem. Which is why I'm not going to pick on the Antony signing. You know why? Because at that time, even I felt Antony was a very good signing. I'm sure most of our fan base said Antony would be a good signing. In fact, we even said we should overpay for him, right? The 90 million, we should just pay for him because one day it's going to yield some results for us. That's fine. So I'm going to leave Antony out of this. Now, let's take all the other signings. Malacia. Okay, you can talk about injuries, but if he was this injury prone, shouldn't the medical staff have done their due diligence and checked who is injured, who is not? And if they had done that, they would have seen Malacia would have had a problem. Because I don't think this is the first time that he's gotten injured. So you have a player who's just injury prone and who's been out for God knows how long. Because even the other day I heard he got injured again. So who knows when he's going to come back? And that's a problem with Malacia. Now you take the next signing. You take Eriksen. Well, okay, he did play good for half a season. And then after the World Cup, he just tanked all the way. Now, you had Sabitzer and Weghorst. But then, the way you used them, very, very stupid. Let's say you bought Sabitzer. Sabitzer, my opinion, was a very good signing. On loan especially. And he did play his role. But guess what? I remember a game when Ten Hag played Sabitzer as the lone six. As the lone six. Sabitzer. Like, that's where you know that the manager does not know what he recruited his players for. And, okay, while it did work, you did play Weghorst at CM at the Nou Camp. And then you take it to now this season. This is the recruitment problem that he had. So, he knows that through last season, through 22-23, Rashford is a big player. He's a big player in our squad. So, we want to build a team around him essentially because he had the 40 GA season. So, now what do? Instead of buying a striker who complements him, right? I'm not saying that Ivan Toney was the only option, but Ivan Toney, we could have got him. But we could have got him, we could have gambled because we knew he was coming back in November anyways, right? Even if he was out, we could have bought him early on and then had him train with us. We could have done that, but no. Okay, fine, I understand. So we thought, Rasmus Højlund, who's a striker who depends on service. Okay, we need a striker who depends on service. We got him. But the problem is, Ten Hag built that team as a counter-attacking team in which the wingers are the ones who score the goals, where Garnacho and Rashford are the players who are going to score the goals essentially. So why the hell did you bring Højlund then? Why did Højlund, a person who needs service, is pretty much like Erling Haaland, let's be honest. But so you're bringing in essentially Erling Haaland with Rashford and Garnacho, all three who are goal scorers. Nobody is a creator there. And yet you feel it should have clicked. Okay, that's Højlund. Now, let's take my main culprit of this whole video, Mason Mount. I'm not lying to you when I say certain games, I forgot he even existed at our club. Even the other day, I thought he was at Chelsea. When one of my friends asked me, I thought he was at Chelsea. Yeah, so I totally forgot that Mount played for us. And you think, even back then, I'm sure 99% of the fan base said, please do not sign Mount. You know why? Because even in the previous season at Chelsea, some players do perform even when the rest of the team plays bad. Person in question, Cole Palmer. Think about what Cole Palmer did last season. The rest of the team was bad, but he still performed. But Mount, on the other hand, the season before that at Chelsea, with Havertz, really completely flopped. And yet, we thought, Chelsea is having problems with FFP. So what should we do? Instead of letting them sink, we should go and help them out. As the good friends that we are, let's go and help them out. And so we gave them 60 million. And of course, Arsenal gave 65 or 70 for Havertz. But at least Havertz did work out in some way for Arsenal. Mount has not even played. He's not shown any commitment or effort at United either. And he's just been a dummy piece essentially. He's just done nothing. And so you think, taking it back to then, what was the thought process? Why did we keep going back for Mount? The bids were being rejected, but we kept going back for it. It's not like the first bid that we gave in was accepted. We kept going higher and higher and higher till we had to get the player. But then, come season, we couldn't even fit him in the team because by the time Amrabat was there, Kobe was there, and then Bruno was there, he doesn't have a spot. So your 60 million player, who, by the way, Ten Hag gave number 7 to, could not even make your team. Couldn't make it anywhere in the team. And that's despite the bad season that we had. And I agree, of course, Mount shouldn't be anywhere near it. But why did you sign a player that's that bad? Yet you thought he's a good idea. You thought he might actually work. Yet it didn't, did it? And then Onana, well, I actually personally like Onana. I still feel he's going to be successful. But let's be honest, if his plan from the start was to do this transition counter-attacking football, what is the point of Onana? Because the whole point that we thought when we signed Onana was that we're going to get a keeper who can play from the back, who can help us transition in attacks, but not in counter-attack, but rather in built-up possession, right? A more calculated approach. But then instead now Onana is being asked to launch long balls. Thankfully, he can actually launch those long balls. But the idea is to play him as that third centre back. So essentially we have 11 players who are participating at the same time on the pitch. That's the idea. But now, because of his strategy, because Ten Hag felt, no, let's counter-attack now. Because of that, even though we bought Onana, now we can't just play. Now we can't play possession. Now we have to play counter-attacking. Now, just like we've seen with the new recruitment so far, I agree. Ten Hag isn't the one who should be doing all the recruitment, right? That should be everybody above him. But him being the manager should know who suits his system and who doesn't, right? At least that he should know. So if you're picking players like Mason Mount, like Rasmus Højlund, like Anthony, all these players who do not suit the system that you want to play, then how are we to say that, okay, you know what you're doing, we can give you the keys to the kingdom and you will do exactly what we want. And finally, and this is my biggest argument, he told us that he's going to bring us the Ajax style of football and then brought us a totally different style of football afterwards. Now, if I need to jog your memory, you guys can remember. Take it back to the game 1 of season 22-23, Brighton at home. We lost 2-1, but I still remember we played well, right? We dominated Brighton in possession, which is a big deal back then, especially under Potter. They used to have possession anywhere, Anfield, Etihad, anywhere you go. And yet we still had more possession than them. We passed better than them. We had better patterns of play than them. We unfortunately did lose. That's all it was. Second half, I remember we did actually play well. And now, come to the second game. That's when we played Brentford. And that, we all know what happened in that game. The 4-0, right? Now, that was really bad. I understand. But even then, I'm telling you, many people are saying, oh, Ten Hag should be kicked out because we lost 2 games. I was like, no, let's chill. I saw patterns of play even in that game, right? And we were playing Eriksen at centre mid, and Cristiano Ronaldo was a striker back then. So the team was very slow and it was old. So I would understand why we couldn't perform at that level. And obviously we knew Casemiro and Anthony were coming in a few games. So it was all fine. We were like, okay, we know what to do, right? Things will happen. But now, what happens after that? That's when the Liverpool game happened. When the Liverpool game happened, Ten Hag was already under pressure. So now Ten Hag is like, okay, I lost my 2 games. If I lose 1 more, I'm screwed. And so what should I do? Okay, let's go back to what these players know, which I respected at the time, that we should just go counter-attacking. So I'm like, okay, fine. And we won the game. And let's be honest, we deserve that win as well. We deserve to smash them. We won 2-1. Fair enough. We take that and we move. Now the next games was Southampton away, I think. And then we had Leicester away. Both games, we scored 1 goal each. We had a few patterns of play, but it was just that few chances here and there. That's all we did, really. And then ever since then, we developed this counter-attacking system. And we haven't changed. In fact, last season, we tried to do this transition club ball, which never worked in the first place. And we decided to stick with that, even though we knew that's never going to work. So, that's your problem right there. He told us that he's going to play something similar to Man City, right? What he did in Ajax. But what we got was something totally different, which let's be honest, if you're a manager, you cannot be lying to the fans like that, because you can say one thing and then adapt it a little bit, but you can't just go back on your word, do a totally opposite thing to what you plan to do. That's where you go wrong. So that's the difference. I'm just saying, when you make a call like this, you have to be consistent. You have to make calls based on what you've said before. That's my problem with Ten Hag, and I'm the first one to admit this. If Ten Hag can turn it around this season, right, under the new regime, if Wilcox and Barada can sort it out, I'm not opposed to that. If Ten Hag can turn it around, I mean, it's not like we can do anything anyways because Ten Hag just signed a new contract, so he's going to be here for a bit. My opinion, only till December, but let's just say for a bit. So let Ten Hag play, and if he can change it up, then all the better for us. So thank you guys for watching, and see you all in the next one.
And I got eyes in the back of my head, I'm seeing. Take me for granted and you know I'm leaving. I'ma take what's mine with the webs I'm weaving. I could take this crowd from seeing to believing.